Good stuff. So just give it a few seconds before we jump in, just give the last few people a chance to join. So we're going to be talking about 3 critical pillars to doubling your revenue in 2021. And this is going to be useful for you, whatever your goal is next year. Coming to the end of the year, you're probably thinking about your goals, your targets for the next 12 months. Whatever it is for you, it's going to be useful for you to sort of get some clarity on what it is you need to do, what it is you need to focus on. Again, if you just joined us, give us a like to let us know that you can hear us okay. And if you're watching this live, just give us a comment that says live. And if you're watching the replay of this, just give us a comment that says replay. I've got something special bonus to send you as well. Just give me a live if you're watching live, replay if you're watching the replay. Right, so let's dive in. When we do this training, we've been speaking to a lot of the recruitment and search runners we help. And obviously, this time of year, December, people tend to start, I guess, reviewing the year up to this point, how things have gone, what's worked well, what hasn't. And I think, for most of us, we're now looking at next year and thinking, what can we do to improve, right? For some people, it's maintain. For some people, it's, they're not as ambitious. But I think for most people in this group, most people who are associated with us, it's, what can we do to grow? And I think we just wanted to put on this quick little micro training because I think speaking to, and I've done it myself as well, where you have this goal that you want to hit and you've got no real plan or strategy to get there. So it's nothing more than sort of wishful thinking. You want to hit this goal, whatever it is for you. It could be double your business, could be, whatever the number is unique to you, but whatever it is, we have this goal that you want to hit. And because you have no clarity or no plan to get there, what happens is, one of two things. Either you hit the goal, but you don't really know why. So the following year, you can't replicate those results, right? Something we see a lot with recruiters that we cross paths with. And something I've done myself as well. Well, the other problem is that, you don't hit there and you don't really know why, right? So it's about sort of getting clarity around what are the drivers to hitting the numbers that you want to hit next year, whatever they happen to be. So I'll check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes in the comment box if that makes sense. And Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, it's because we approach this time of the year, understandably, we're all reflecting on what's been, what could have been, what a year it's been, and if you consider the pandemic, the impact that's had on all of us, both personally and business-wise. So it's understandable that you're going to reflect, but here's what we know. If any of you guys are members of the gym, if you go to the gym just after the new year, it's packed because people have made these resolutions about what they're going to do. But what you'll also know if you're a regular member of the gym, 6 weeks into that, membership or attendance rather is back down to normal. And there's a number of reasons for that. And one of the reasons is that people haven't got a reason why they should be in the gym. They haven't got a definite purpose. And for a lot of people, they go to the gym, but they actually don't know they don't know what they need to do if they really want to lose weight. So they said they want to lose weight, so they think it's a good idea to go to the gym, but they don't know how. And what we're going to share with you say to any business owner, do you want to double your sales? And I'd be shocked if anybody said no. I'd expect a 99.9% people say yes, hell yes, I want to double my sales, but don't know how. And there's no point making that goal, having that commitment, if you don't know how to do it. So what we want to do today really is just share with you some real simple things you can do that are guaranteed to double your sales over the next 12 months. Absolutely. And you'll see in a moment, cast iron guarantee to do just that.
So there's 4 things that I want you to get clear on, right? 4 things you need to be clear on going into the new year. So one is, your goal or your target, whatever it is for you. What is it you want to hit? Again, I think this is probably the easy part for most of us. I think we have ideas of the type of business we want, the type of life we want to lead, the revenue numbers we want to hit, whatever it happens to be, profit maybe. But the first thing is you need to have that goal and be, I guess, sure about what it is that you actually want to achieve. Like, again, one of the mistakes recruiters make is that they go into the new year without having a real clear picture of this, without really thinking and just sort of going through the motions. And you might do it in your business, you might do it in your personal life, but wherever you want improvement, wherever you want growth, we need to be clear on, what specifically does that mean? People say things like, I want more money or I want more clients. What specifically is that goal that you want to hit? Terry, do you want to check in? Does that make sense? Anything to
Does,
add?
yeah. And sorry, Drew, I had a bit of a technical chat. So I may have missed, well, not may, I did miss some of that, but it's a bit like, unless you know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? And imagine that you jump into a taxi or a cab. See, because often we ask recruitment search business owners, what do you want? What do you want to achieve? And the response is, I don't want to struggle, or I don't want to have multiple offices or whatever. And they talk about what they don't want. And that's a bit like jumping into a cab or a taxi and the driver saying to you, where do you want to go? And you saying, well, let me tell you where I don't want to go. And I don't want to go there, and I don't want to go there. But the fact is that taxi driver or the cab driver is going to say to you, get the hell out of my car, unless you know where you're going, how can we help? Unless you know where you want your business to be 12 months from now, how on earth can you get there? So this is about knowing where you want to go and then getting the directions to get in there. If you don't know exactly how to get there, let's get some directions, let's get a map out, and let's show you exactly how to get there. And all the evidence suggests that those recruitment to search business owners that have a well-defined written goal will outperform the majority of other recruitment business owners every single time.
And the next thing you need clarity. And if we're talking about business, talking about your revenue, specifically you need clarity around your numbers. You've got this revenue goal, but what's it going to take for you to get there? How many clients, how many sales calls, what activities are going to take to get those sales calls? So the more clarity we can create around hitting this end result, the better. I think, again, mistake I've made in the past, mistake I see a lot of recruiters make is even if they have the goal part, they have no sort of real understanding, or they haven't thought about what it's going to take for them to get there. So that's the second thing. So again, just want to check in, let me know in the comments if that makes sense. And Terry, anything you want to add?
Not at this stage, Drew. That's perfect.
Perfect. The next thing, once we've got the clarity and we're clear on numbers, we need a plan to hit those numbers, right? So if it's a case of I want to do this revenue and therefore I need to make this many sales and therefore I need this many sales calls, what's the plan that you have to get that many sales calls, right? Again, if we have no plan, we're just entering the year on nothing but luck and hope, right? So what people do is they set these goals around an increase in revenue, increase in turnover, whatever it happens to be. They might even have the clarity of what it takes. I need this many more clients. They have no real plan or strategy to get there because they're not clear on the numbers. They don't know how many or what activity actually goes in and is the driver of those results, right? If we don't have that plan of action there, these are the things I'm doing daily, these are the things I'm doing weekly, these are the things I'm doing monthly, and if I do those things, I'm going to be there or thereabouts in terms of my goal. If we don't have that, we're not going to hit the goal. So mistake people make is they set the goal, they set the, I want to increase by 10%, 20%, I want to double my revenue. They have no real sort of grasp of the activity that it's going to take. Terry, anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think the key thing to this is that let's get some real numbers here. If you wanted to do 200 of your local currency over the next 12 months, at some level that's 16,000, approximately 16,000 a month every single month. Well, if you know that number, and let's say that, for sake of my maths here, that your average placement is 8,000 of your local currency, you now know that you need to make 2 placements a month every single month. Well, let's say you're a contingency recruiter and you fill 1 in 5 of the roles that you work on. You now know that you need to get 10 job orders a month every single month, because if you get 10 job orders a month, all things being equal, you'll fill 2 of those. But it's having that plan, and without the plan, it's kind of pointless. And the beauty of the plan is if you stay with those numbers there, you've got complete control over the number of decision makers you speak to. You've got control over so much of that, and that's what you want to be working on. What you've got control over, because ultimately the final destination, it may be 180 at the end of the year, it may be 220. You've got no control over that actual final destination, but what you have got control over is your plan of action, the activity that you take to get there. You've got complete control over that. Which brings us on to the next thing. Although you've got control over it, the key thing here, you've got to commit to it. Unless you're 100% committed, I've got some news for you. It just ain't gonna work. And again, we come back to the gym scenario. So those people that go to the gym, they've got this goal, I want to get fit. They lack clarity. They don't know how to get fit. And the key one is why, 6 weeks later, they're no longer in the gym. They weren't committed to it. Oh, it's too much like hard work, Oh, I'm really busy. Oh, it's dark at night, or it's too dark in the morning, or whatever the BS is. But unless you're 100% committed, it will not work, period. Like anything else in life. If you're in a relationship, you're not committed to it. Guess what? You're not committed to your own well-being. Guess what? If you're not committed to your finances, I'm sure you're getting the picture here. Imperative that you have total commitment to this, otherwise it ain't going to work.
Yeah, again, watching live, let me know in the comments, is this making sense? Are you following? If you're watching the replay, let me know as well. Is this making sense? Are you following so far? Just on the commitment thing, one of the things that we see quite a lot is recruitment and search business owners who have this goal they want to hit. So usually around revenue, usually around, profits, type of business they want to have. But what you'll find on when you dig a bit deeper is that they're more committed to the how than they are the what, right? They're more committed to the path to the revenue goal rather than the revenue itself. And what I mean by that is you'll speak to them. And again, it may not even be us speaking to them, it may be an internal conversation that you have with yourself, right? But you need to get to the point where you're willing to do whatever it takes because, ultimately, again, this has been probably the best example of it. Shit's going to happen. Things are going to go wrong. Things are going to spin you out of your, the easy route, the path that you thought were the way to go, right? So that's guaranteed. I can promise you, this year's been chaos in itself, but next year's going to be, it's going to be different type of chaos, but it's going to be no different in terms of things are going to go wrong, right? If you don't have that commitment, that's when the goal doesn't happen, because what will happen is things get a bit difficult, and then you'll be forced with decisions to make, difficult decisions to make, decisions that only a committed person can make, right? And you won't make decisions, or you'll shy away from decisions. Again, we saw that a lot this year. We've probably all done it ourselves this year and in past as well, where we haven't been truly committed, so we're shied away from decisions, actions, whatever it is that we have to take. Terry, anything to add to that?
That's clear, buddy. Absolutely clear. Perfectly clear.
So I just wanted to sort of paint a picture of the three main areas we focus on. Quite often when people speak to us about their business and the growth of the business, we can quite quickly help them really ramp up their revenue and profit numbers by focusing on these three things. And again, this is a very simple way of looking at it. It's almost sort of like so obvious. It's to me shocking that it gets ignored. But I'm finding time and time again that when people think about growing a business, what they think about is, how do I get more clients? Which is just one of the ways to grow the business, right? There's three things you need to focus on. One, getting more clients. How can you get additional clients through the door? Two, how can you charge more for your services, right? If you think about this year, if you get more clients next year, obviously revenue will go up. If you can think about this year, if you can charge more for your services next year, your revenue would obviously go up significantly and your profits as well. Then the last one is if you can increase number of placements you make per client, your revenue will go up, right? So again, just want to sort of, this is an illustration that we've used a lot. So again, apologies if you've seen it before, but I think it's always useful to have a reminder, right? Let's imagine that your business right now, and I don't care what your numbers are, whether you're at 100,000, at a million, at 10 million, this sort of formula works no matter what size your business is, right? Let's imagine for a second, we have a business that has, if I put clients here, so this year they worked with 10 clients, they had a 10K average fee. And then if we just put placements here, and then on average, they made 2 placements per client, right? So for that business, total revenue was 200K, right? So that's the starting point we're starting with. And you use your own numbers, whatever it is for you. If you look back at last year, what was the numbers for you, right? Secondly, let's imagine that next year this business decides, I'm going to focus on these 3 areas. and I'm just going to look to increase each of them by 10%. So this time, 2021, I work with 11 clients. The average fee they get is 11K, and then rather than just 2 placements per client, they make 2.2 placements, right? So again, very small increases, something that, I think everyone listening to this, when we listen to live, we listen to recording, I think we could all, increase our numbers this year, especially considering how, challenging the year's been for a lot of people. We can increase this year by 10%, right? So this revenue in this business is now, £266,200, right? Or dollars, or whatever your local currency is. So it's been over a 66,000 increase in revenue just by a slight improvement on those 3 areas, right? So I want to check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the comment box. And Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, and it's a slight increase. It's a 10%. So you've got 10 clients, you're now making 11. You're asking for a 10% increase in your fees, and you're increasing the volume by 10%. But look at the difference it makes to your business. Just that in those 3 years, you've gone from 200,000 to 266,000. Your costs will stay pretty much the same, not exactly, but for example, if you're a solo recruiter, there won't be much difference in your costs on those numbers there.
Even if you've got a team, there won't be much difference in your costs, right? You can do that with whatever infrastructure you have in place right now. No additional overheads, pretty much, no additional team, no additional anything. You can probably do that quite comfortably, right, for most people. But let's imagine a different scenario. So I'm going to, let's imagine this is still 2021, but this is scenario 2, right? Let's say we really sort of went for it, really pushed these numbers, and we increased the number of clients, from this starting point, we increase the numbers of clients you have by 30%. So rather than just 10 clients, next year you work with 13 clients. Let's say we increase your fee by 20%. So rather than the average fee being 10K, it's now 12K. And then let's say we increase the number of placements you make per client by, let's say 30% from the original price. So that's 2.6. Right? So now this business, in this new scenario, the revenue is now, and again, you can get your calculator to work this out. And as I said before, whatever revenue you did this year, you can use the same formula in your business to accelerate growth next year. This business now, there's over 405,000, right? Should be there. So from this starting point here, just by increasing all 3 zeros, again, the key is simultaneously, we've more than doubled revenue, right? And again, back to Terry's point earlier, most of you can do this without significantly increasing your headcount, your overheads. You can do it as we are now, right? Anyone, again, let me know if that makes sense. Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Can you see how it's focused on these 3 areas? You can significantly increase your revenue, significantly probably surpass your targets, hit your targets. I don't know what your targets are. Again, we can inflate these numbers as much as you want, or we can downplay them as much as you want. It's the simultaneous effort on each of the areas that get to the result. Give me a yes or no in the comment box if that makes sense. Any questions, let me know as well. And Terry, anything you'd add?
Yeah, anybody watching this right now, you've got 10 clients, and what we're saying is, look, do you think you could win 3 more clients? Keep the existing clients you've got now. In our experience, most recruiters, once they get a client, they tend to do a good job. Majority of recruiters do a good job. So once they get a client, they tend to keep them. So what we're saying is, you need to acquire 3 new clients over a 12-month period. And the clients that you're working with, you're going to increase the fee by 2,000 of your local currency. These aren't big asks by any stretch of the imagination. And you've got these clients, and perhaps you've got 1 contact in there. So you say, actually, I'm gonna dig deeper into these clients and get more contacts in this organization. The consequence of which, you get more business. So whereas before, at the beginning you were doing 2 placements, a very slight increase, and now you're doing 2.6 placements on average with each client. So these aren't big numbers. We're not asking you to do anything outrageous. These are, I'm sure you all agree, these are doable numbers if you make that decision and that commitment to do it.
Yeah, and I think, probably the most impactful, interesting thing for me is the fact that we can keep your overheads pretty much the same, right? Which means not only have we significantly increased revenue, but you've also significantly increased profit as well, which really, that should be what it's all about. One thing that we see a lot is recruiters tend to set these big goals around revenue without really thinking about profit, and profit's almost an afterthought. Whatever's at the end is the profit, rather than what profit do we want to make in 2021? What profit do we make next year? How profitable do we want to be? So when they don't think in terms of profit, what will happen is you'll get 7-figure, 8-figure businesses, massive teams, lots of revenue, but no profit or little profit, right? Versus a smaller, leaner business with lots of profit. And again, it depends. I guess it depends why you start the business, but the companies that struggled more this year were the ones that weren't as lean, right? The more profitable companies with bigger cash reserves, obviously had a lot more to play with, a lot less panicky when COVID hit. And I'm not saying that anything anywhere near the impact of COVID is going to happen next year, but profit's profit. Profit's good no matter what's going on in the economy, right? So again, just to sort of illustrate the point, if we look back at the let's say 2020 done 200K, and of whatever local currency is, excuse my writing by the way, and let's say that you had a profit margin of 30%, which isn't amazing. It's about average, really. That would mean your profit is 60K. But using the increase that we've just looked at, again, imagine that your overheads are going to stay the same. So if your profit's 60K, that means your costs were 140K. Yeah, that makes sense to you so far? Check my maths.
So make sense, yeah.
Yeah, if we sort of went through this process, you more than doubled your revenue with your slight increases and kept your overheads the same or near enough the same. Now, rather than so if we let's say we generated 405, costs were 140, so that would be just done earlier. So yeah, that would mean our profits are now, right? That's a massive increase in terms of what we started with. That for a lot of people will seem unrealistic, but you've seen the maths, you can check the maths yourself. If you don't think you can increase these by 30% without, while keeping your costs the same, it might seem unrealistic, but these aren't big jumps, right? If we focus on all three, to double our business by double the number of clients, massive. We need more overhead. We need probably more a bigger team, probably more software. Overheads are going to go up. If we can focus on all three simultaneously, we can do it without having to expand the size of the business. We can just expand the revenue and the profit in the business. Okay, let me know in the comments if you're following, if this is making sense, or if you've got any questions. And Terry, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think just the fact it's so doable, isn't it? And we're fortunate if we talk to recruitment and search business owners from all over the world every day of the week, and we have witnessed this time and time again. Even during the pandemic, some of our clients doubled their profits over the 12-month period. But here's the thing worth noting: they're doing things differently to what the majority are doing. So they think differently and they behave differently and look at things completely differently to how the majority of recruiters are doing. And that, you're probably well aware, the majority of recruiters kind of panicked as the pandemic hit. And we're furloughing and laying people off, but other recruiters, their businesses grew, and they're the ones you want to be looking at and saying, what did they do that I didn't do? But it's this kind of thinking that's got them those kind of results.
So let's look at more clients and what you need to focus on. I think really there's two, I guess, levers that we need to push or pull, whatever you want to word it. Two things we need to look at is one is more opportunities or more sales meetings with your ideal prospects. I think, again, extremely simplistic, but it's a metric that often people don't measure. You know, often when we're asking recruiters, okay, how many sales meetings have you had this month, this week? They don't know, or the number's low. That's a key thing. If you want to get more clients, that's a key thing that you need to be looking at increasing. How can I get just more opportunities to pitch my services? Quite often, you know, when you find yourself losing out to competitors or not winning the business you want, it isn't because the sales meeting hasn't gone well, it isn't because anything else, other than you just haven't had the opportunity to pitch to your perfect client. How can you get them to know who you are, you know, view you as an authority, and, you know, ultimately get meetings with them when they have vacancies? And the other thing is, you need to very simply improve your sales so you can convert more of those meetings into sales. And when I say sales, I mean for the right fee and on the right terms. Terry, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we've got clients, we're talking, you know who I'm referring to, Drew, who we had a meeting with him the other day, and he talked about, he declined business from, I think it was 7 clients last month. But here's what's interesting. He had 21 meetings with potential hiring managers in that month alone. So ultimately, he decides who he works with rather than the client deciding whether they're going to work with him. Can you see the shift in the thinking and the way of operating? Because if he's deciding as a recruiter or as a search firm owner who he's going to work with, he's going to choose the clients that are best fit for him, rather than when the client selects you. And if a client's selecting you, they may not have your best intentions at heart. And ultimately, you are in business to make as much money as possible. And the clients that are selecting you may not have that intention. But when you get this right and you're having more meetings, you decide who you work with rather than the other way around. It's a really important point there.
So you need to be clear on exactly how many sales meetings you need to be having per week, per month, throughout the year to hit your goal, whatever that happens to be, whatever the increase needs to be in terms of number of clients, whether it's a 10% increase, 30% increase, 50% increase. No, look at how many sales meetings you had this year. You know, that whatever the increase is in number of clients, that needs to directly correlate to the number of meetings you need to have as well, right? So how are you going to increase those meetings? The other thing is, what percentage of the clients that you speak to you need to convert into, what percentage of the prospects you speak to you need to convert into a paying client? Again, look back at last year. If we can increase that this year, that will help you sort of push these numbers up. Then we come to, your fee. So we looked right at the beginning, if we can sort of increase your average transaction value, the fee that you charge, the fee that you get per placement, simultaneously with getting more clients, then your revenue will increase substantially, right? Fees, one of the simplest areas to improve, but it's also one of the areas we get the most pushback. To increase the fees is really only sort of, again, on a very sort of top level, there's 2 things you need to do, or 2 decisions that you need to make. One is just to make a decision to increase your fees, right? So if your fee's 20% now, increase it to 21%, 25%, whatever it happens to be. All that takes is a decision. Next time you speak to a client, rather than saying my fee is X, you say the new fee. That's obviously, there's more that goes into it in terms of your mindset, everything else, but it's very unlikely you're charging the max that you can charge even with your current skill set. So without even improving your skills, your sales skills, anything like that, just saying a higher fee next time. Very simplistic way, easy way to get a higher fee. The other thing is, which I think isn't used often enough, is simply moving up the food chain. By that I mean recruiting at a higher level. The hiring managers that you're speaking to now become your candidates. You've already got the relationships there. It'll be dead simple to suddenly say, like, actually, I'm going to recruit at a high level. Again, simple, not necessarily easier, but I think if you're not working on these things and you're just sort of stagnant in your approach to fees, your approach to the market, then I think you're missing out big time. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, there is this perception that if I've got a lower fee, I get my foot in the door. So we speak to recruitment and search business owners every day of the week, and their fee, a lot of their recruiters we talk to, their fees are quite low. When we ask why, they say, well, it's to get their foot in the door. But here's what you want to consider. there is no evidence that the cheaper recruiters get all the business. There's no evidence to support that whatsoever. There's no evidence to support that any of us buy on price and price alone. As I talk to you right now, I can almost guarantee that you're not working on the cheapest Mac or PC. You're not using the cheapest phone or whatever. We do not buy on price alone. Otherwise, we would live in the cheapest houses in the cheapest areas and wear the cheapest clothes and drive the cheapest cars, but we don't. So I think it's important that you get that in your head right, that people don't buy on price alone. It's also worth noting as well that if you're talking to a hiring manager, and don't get me wrong, there is a percentage of hiring managers that will buy on price. It's a small percentage, it's about 15, 20%, who, if you offer 21% and I offer 20%, I'm going to get the business. But they are a small percentage. But if you ask most hiring managers, do you want the cheapest candidate or do you want the best candidate? Majority of hiring managers, about 85%, say, no, I want the best candidate. And most people, and we all understand that you can't say that you're good and you're cheap. You're either one or the other. So it's worth bearing that in mind. And as Drew rightly said, we do get a lot of pushback on this. Well, my market buy on price alone, and there is no evidence to support that. And unless you're going to be the cheapest, the majority of recruiters we talk to, they're not the cheapest, they're one of the cheapest. There's absolutely no point. So if your market on average charge 18% and you say, well, we charge 18% because that's what everybody else is charged, there is no logic to that. And you would be better served charging a higher fee, because ultimately you would work less and earn more. And the other point that Drew made, and anybody that's been in recruitment long enough will verify this, the further the food chain you go in terms of seniority in terms of recruiting, the easier it gets. Now, whether you're recruiting somebody on 20,000 or 200,000, the process in and of itself is very much the same. But at the more senior level, for the recruiter, the experience is a lot more enjoyable. Do you honestly think a senior person on 150,000 is going to ghost you? If you're at the lower end, you're getting fees of 5,000, 6,000. How many times have you been ghosted and candidates not returned the call, and that type of thing? And think about it. You do a fee, let's be modest and say it's only 150, and let's say that your the amount that you get is let's call it 25,000, which isn't that great, but let's call it your fees then 25,000. So you make one placement, you get 25,000. Of course, you make two placements in a month, that's 50,000 a month. Alternatively, you can make 5 placements at 10,000 a month. Again, you see what's happening here. At the further the food chain, you're going to work a lot less, but earn substantially more, which ultimately means you're going to have more. You can have more time for yourself and more time for your family and those that you care for, because you didn't set up business to be the busiest person out there with no time for your friends and your family. That wasn't your intention for anybody. Your intention was to generate as much income as possible, as quickly as possible. Well, there's 2 things you can do straight away to do just that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this comes back to what we said at the beginning about commitment. Are you more committed to the what, as in your goal, or the how? Because what people often say is, I don't want to increase my fee, and it all comes down to that they're not comfortable doing it. Or they don't feel confident enough doing it, or they believe, rightly or wrongly, that their market won't pay that fee. Well, again, if you're really committed to the revenue goal, why don't you change market, right? So if I don't necessarily believe it when recruiters say that, but let's say it's true. Why don't you move market, right? So again, what are you more committed to, the how or the what? Which brings us to the last sort of pillar that you need to focus on, which is that to increase the average number of placements that you make per client. So there's 2 ways to look at this. The one way is to see that as, how can we get repeat business from the clients that we win, which is something you should be focusing on, and I think a good area to spend your time. But for a lot of recruiters, especially if you're working on contingency, and this is either if it's temp, interim, or perm, if you work in an environment where you work on 10 job orders to only fill 6 or 4 or 2 of them, your fill rate's any less than sort of 80-90%, this could just simply mean filling more of the roles that you currently work on, rather than getting more repeat business, right? So and that all that comes down to really, or one of the things it comes down to really, is just a shift in your sales, right? Can you, rather than working on contingency where you're competing with 1, 2, 3, 4 other recruiters, again, just getting that job order on an exclusive basis will increase your fill rate. So these are very sort of simple shifts that you can make across the board to have a massive impact on your revenue. Terry, anything you want to add?
Not to that stage, you've covered it well there.
Awesome. Perfect. So yeah, we're going to sort of wrap up. I hope you find it, if you found it useful, let me know in the comments. Be really good to hear from some of you. What your biggest takeaway was, what you found useful. And again, if you didn't, if you think we made a mistake, if anything's wrong, let us know as well. I won't necessarily agree with you, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, let's have a discussion about it. Again, if you want to help doing any of this, if you go to makemoreplacements.com/apply, a short letter there about what we do and how we work. Have a read of that. If it's something that interests you, then you can follow the instructions on that page. That's makemoreplacements.com/apply. We will speak with you soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless. Again, if I don't speak to you before, have a good Christmas and a good New Year as well.
Yeah, take care, folks. Thanks for joining us.